Hello and welcome to The Wise Why. We are back, and this morning I am joined by the most incredible woman. She is the voice in my head when I'm having a fat day, and I have plenty of those. And when I'm looking at my wardrobe going, I can't wear that, I can't wear that, I hear Samantha Harman's voice come in and she will go, just wear it. So enough about me. As usual, The Wise Why is definitely not about me. I shall pass straight to Samantha. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning. I am very sweaty at this moment in time, so I'm not enjoying this weather. Okay. I am a style coach, so I help predominantly women and all women, some men, to save time and make money using the power of their clothes.
Love it. And actually, one thing I didn't say before we came live was I get asked quite a lot by men, funnily enough, what to wear. And we always think it's a female thing, but it's not. And, I've searched. So I am going to request if you could do me a style guide that I could share with all your branding on it so I can actually send it to people, because that would really help me.
Yes, I would love to. I get asked a lot, actually. I am trained in men's styling, and I will, if someone messages me, I'll try and help them as much as possible. But there aren't as many stylists for men specifically doing what I do, which is blending coaching and styling and asking questions about why we're wearing what we wear. So there are stylists who will work specifically with clothing, but not necessarily the reasons why we're wearing or not wearing stuff.
And I think that's really, really important. The way that I got to hear you speak, and it was just awesome. But the way you connect the mindset with what you're wearing, and I wonder if you can expand a bit more on that, because we always think, oh, I've got nothing to wear, or I'm just having a fat day, and we have this inner dialogue. But you have a way where you can really help us fix it.
Yeah, your wardrobe isn't just clothes; it's a manifestation of everything that's happened to you up until this point, how you feel about yourself, your hopes, your dreams, your fears, shame, guilt, the things that you thought you'd be by now, the things that you didn't get to do, ways that you are holding yourself back, you're saving stuff for best. So there is no point in me coming to someone's house or working with someone and saying, oh, you're an apple and you should wear this and blah, 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 and then leaving them to it, because that doesn't actually help them, because they still have all of that inner stuff going on. So the first part that I do with my clients is the inner work, because what we're doing is we're running a dialogue in our heads that we aren't even necessarily aware of, that comes from generations and memories and beliefs that we formed when we were so young, that we're still carrying around, and we're still dressing to these standards, and they are reflected in what we're wearing or not wearing, when actually if we didn't have them, we'd probably dress in a completely different way.
I absolutely love that, because I was a dancer. I don't talk about it very often, but I trained very hard to be a dancer and get into the West End. And I struggle to this day to put a swimming costume on. When I put any type of swimwear, anything like a leotard, it can put me in the worst mood possible.
Yeah, it's because of those beliefs that were formed when you're a kid, right? You've just reminded me of when we had to go swimming at school, and I've got a lot of hair and a big head, and I pretend that it's all just the hair, right? My head's as big as the moon, and if I didn't have my hair, people would really see it. But I used to have to wear a swimming cap, and I would have like 2 or 3 teachers trying to squash my hair down into a swimming cap, which, reflecting back on it, is like, it's not great really from a confidence perspective.
No.
But yeah, I have all of these stories as well. Like when I was growing up, I was told, the words that were used were, you are fat and ugly. Those are the words that were used. And so I believed that, and I didn't think that style was for me. I thought it was for other people. And now I get people messaging me saying to me, oh, you're so confident, I wish I could wear that, I would love to work with you, but I need to lose weight. And that's just not true at all. I think style should be for everyone. And sometimes people see what I do, they'll see one post from me, and they'll assume that what I'm doing is really superficial. And I get where that comes from, because it comes from this idea that style is only for a certain type of person, and that's what we've seen stylists as before, right? We've seen them as judgmental, you know, on what not to wear, telling people this isn't good, hide that, whatever else. But what I'm doing is the opposite of that, because I want people to feel as good as possible about themselves so they can do good stuff in the world.
Just brilliant. And I think that's really, I love the fact you touched on the what not to wear and those horrible, and I'm going to say it, horrible TV programs that just destroy who we are. I have a whole rant about that type of TV because I don't think it's healthy for us. I don't think it's healthy to constantly be reminded that we're not perfect. I mean, I have no idea what body shape I am, because all I do know is I've stopped looking at the numbers when I go shopping, because whichever shop I go into, I could be a size 16 down to a size 8. And I tend to think I'm probably about a 10 to 12, but I don't honestly know. I don't know what you've got to say on that one as well.
Yeah, we get so caught up on labels and rules, and I work with a lot of women who are of the generations of growing up or watching those type of shows. And the thing is, the people who made those shows, such as Trinny Woodall, Susanna Constantine, Erica Davies, who's now an author and writes style books, they have come out and said that what they said was wrong and they don't believe those rules. And yet, because that's what we've been influenced by, that's what we're still doing. And so many women that I work with, I'll have to challenge them on beliefs they have, like, I can't wear red because that's too this, or I can't wear stripes because you shouldn't wear stripes over a certain size. And it's restricting our style. But shops, no, labels, it's because clothes are made on a fit model. So every shop uses a different model, and all they do is just scale up. Like, they'll just add a few inches per size, and they're never going to fit your individual body 100% perfectly, because that's how they're made. They're mass produced. And yet you are making that mean something about yourself.
So I know you've got a real hatred for fast fashion.
Yeah, there's some fast fashion brands that I just do not mess with. And first of all, overconsumption is a huge problem. We currently have enough clothes on this planet to clothe the next 6 generations. We don't need more clothes. And yet there are brands that are making 100,000 items like every quarter. ASOS, for example, if you go on ASOS, you will see they've got about 7,000 new items pretty much every day on there. We don't need all this stuff. We actually just need to learn how to use it properly. And another reason that I have a problem with fast fashion is because of how it makes us feel. You know if your clothes are of good quality or not. You know if your clothes have been made by someone who is actually getting what they deserve from putting together that item. And so if you are running a business or you want to be a leader and you're saying, I want to make 6 figures, 7 figures, you can't be walking around in clothes from Shein, whatever it's called. I've got no time for it.
But yeah,
got no time for it.
So I love that, because people don't know this much about me, but when I was in my 30s, I used to refuse to go into certain shops because of fast fashion. I used to stand outside them and almost get, I was very political when I was younger. I've mellowed. I have definitely mellowed. But, you know, I was like, no, you can't go in there. They don't treat their staff right. It is factory. I was incredibly banging the drum. So when I first met you and I heard you talking about this, it was like, yeah, I like this woman a lot. And I do mean a lot. It was like, wow, yes, you're talking my language. But of course, you didn't just start in fashion, did you? You people don't necessarily know this. They see your posts on social media, and as you said, they do the judgment thing. I think we've all been there. But actually, you're I'm going to swear, you're a ballsy ass editor, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I started as a journalist. Well, actually, if we're going way back, you know, I grew up on a council estate. I didn't know anyone in journalism, and I became a journalist and ended up becoming a newspaper editor. And at that time, even actually, it wasn't that long ago, okay, and also this is still the case now, there are not very many women in those roles. And so I was often being mistaken for the secretary or someone's assistant. And I decided that I could use my clothes not only as an armor to that kind of stuff, but also as personal brand, because I could see that's where journalism and even careers in general are going. You know, people buy from people. So I started to really think more about what I was wearing. I mean, I loved clothes anyway and dressing up anyway. Think about what I was wearing. And from there, other women started asking me for help. I'd meet them at events and they would say, I've got an interview tomorrow. Can you help me? Or I've got this meeting next week. Can you help me pick out what I should wear? I absolutely loved helping them. And I loved helping them more because I am very passionate about gender equality, women getting into these spaces, all that kind of stuff, I guess, as a result from being in a very male dominated industry, which is not just male dominated, but also very elitist. Like when I got the job as the editor of the Oxford Mail and the Oxford Times, I would have so many people say to me, oh, what school did you go to? And they meant, what private school did you go to? Because this is a job for this type of person, right? So they were always a bit surprised when I was like, oh, I went to school on the council estate. But something that happened to me at those papers was that this had happened to me one day, and we had someone who was an archivist. He was basically, he used to work there, and now he looked after all of our files because newspapers are such a rich history of what's happened in society. And he was in the room where we kept everything, and he took out this book, and it was a long line of all of the editors up to that point and from when it had started. And he said to me, look at all of these. And he was like, and now look at you, imagine what they would say, or how great is it that you are here doing this? So I really took that away with me and loved that he said that.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, but that's why I do what I do. It's not, to me, it's not about clothes. It's about helping people make money. I have a client at the moment who I've been working with for literally 2 weeks, and already she is making big strides in her business that she wouldn't have made otherwise, because she's starting to feel more confident in herself and owning the fact she's an expert.
Yeah, big one. And it's interesting because I've had to go through that change as well. You know, it's when I worked for the corporates, I actually deliberately dressed like the secretary. I deliberately dressed very, very feminine. I was working in a very male dominated environment. So my clothes were really floral. They were feminine. I deliberately power dressed in a way because I've kind of reversed it so that people would come to the meeting and I'd be the one making the decisions, and they would talk to my boss, to the person next to me. So sometimes my boss, sometimes I'd be in charge of marketing. Sometimes the person that I'd taken to the meeting, who was the pre-sales guy, and they would talk to them because they were in a suit and I was the pretty one. I'd even go and make the cup of tea deliberately and come back in, and they would spend the whole time talking to the other person. And I'd go, yeah, I'm not going to be going with you.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah, I know. I had a lot of fun doing that. But of course, then I left, decided to launch a business, but the pandemic hit, and then I had to kind of find my own style. And it's been really interesting going through that journey and finding out, because I need practical clothes, because a lot of the time I'm crawling on the floor, putting lights up or putting up tripods. So it's kind of like difficult to work out what to wear. And I've had to go through that transition, and it's been really interesting. So when I do dress up, people tend to go, oh, you're very dressed up today. And I'm like, no, I'm just not crawling on the floor.
No, it's just Brand Tuesday. No, any excuse. But yeah, it is a struggle, because if you think about it, we go from school, university, where no one has any money, so we're just wearing like whatever, and then into the work environment, and there's very much still this what we are supposed to wear at work, and it's so outdated. A lot of workwear policy when it comes to what to wear to work, and I don't even think a lot of HR professionals even know this from the conversations that I've had with them recently, is based on a book from 50 years ago. It's a book by someone called John T. Malloy, and it was called Dress for Success. And he brought up a women's edition because more women were coming into male dominated workspaces. And in this book, he says, you know, you need to stand shoulder to shoulder with men, hence the reason that shoulder pads were such a big thing in the 80s, and power dressing was a phrase that he coined. And it's 50 years later, we have got more traction in these spaces, not as much as we need or would like, but also we've lived through a pandemic, and so many people now are working hybrid or working from home, and they don't know what to wear to work. And because this is so outdated and no one's having the conversation about it, it's so confusing. Managers are really confused. I talk to managers all the time who will say to me, oh, I've got this person, they keep coming dressed in XYZ, you know, people look like they've just crawled out of bed. And when I say to them, why do you feel that this isn't a conversation you can have? They will say, are you kidding? I don't know what to wear to work. No one's talking to me about this. I've not had any training. What am I supposed to say to them? So yes, it's something that we really need to think about, because if you're asking your employees as well to be a face of the brand, you have to give them the confidence to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Is this a book coming out?
Okay, here's my grand announcement. I think as I just get on my soapbox, I'm like, I'm telling this, and people are like, when are you going to write a book? So
yeah, seriously, don't get this book out, because I would buy it, and I would also be able to use it with my clients, because so the challenge that some of my clients have is they've got to do, and they tend to be men, although there are women, and I'm trying desperately to remember Paula's surname, who came on the podcast a couple of months ago. She designs workwear for women, so really she's going to try and connect with you. But I'm trying to think about the issue that a lot of my clients face is they're on site, so they're in steel toe caps, they've got a hard hat on, and then they've got to move from site to a big meeting and hold that meeting, because they're in they're in the C-suite. So that's an interesting point for men and women, and something that a lot of people struggle with. I'm not going to ask you to answer the question now, but unless you've got an idea, but it is something that is never discussed, and it is a really difficult moment.
Right. We have to get dressed every day for work. We judge people, even though we hate to think this of ourselves, we judge people within 0.10 seconds of seeing them. And so, you know, what we wear is really important, not just for other people, but for ourselves, because there is something called enclosed cognition. It's a psychological term for the fact that we act up to or down to what we're wearing. So if we're wearing something that doesn't make us feel good, we are less productive. We are less likely to hold the meeting. We are less likely to say what we need to say. And that's a problem. That's a problem in business for employers, because if you are in a sales role, for example, and you have to go out and get a big client and you don't feel confident in yourself, that's the energy you're going to bring to the meeting, and you're not going to get as good a deal as you could have done. So it's something that we need to talk about. It's the one thing we're expected to do every single day for work. And it's the one thing that people will tell you is superficial, silly thing to think about. You know, we invest all this money in IT training and, you know, all this other stuff, which is all great. But if people don't feel good about themselves, they're not going to do the best.
100%. And I say this when I'm doing public speaking, think about what you're wearing. Including, and it's funny, I was watching a documentary with Shania Twain, and she talked about how she had to learn to sing in heels. And I talk about this a lot, actually, because heels change the way you stand and the way you command yourself. Now, I love a heel. I absolutely love it. But I've taught myself where to place my weight so it doesn't affect me when I'm public speaking. But that took time, and I had to learn to do it. And I was lucky I got it at drama school. But those are things that people don't think about, right the way down to your feet, do they?
People don't have any training in this stuff. We are just expected to know. And the problem is then that fast fashion in general, can capitalize on this, because we're always being sold to, especially with social media. Oh, well, you know, that person's wearing that, so maybe I should wear that. Maybe this is a thing to buy this season. And because we haven't learned the basics of, this is your shape, this is how to make you look and feel fantastic, we are susceptible to going out and buying stuff that we do not need, and that half the time we don't even like it. Sometimes I'll be with a client going through their wardrobe, and I'll say, okay, what about this thing or this thing? And they're like, oh, hate that, don't like that. Why is it in your house?
I've got a confession. I threw out all the clothes I don't like. Well, actually, I didn't throw them out. I took them to the charity. But I remember listening to one of your things, and I went through my wardrobe, and everything that I didn't like went out.
Yes. Yes. Good.
So this is what you've done to me, and yet, you know, if I wasn't busy, I would have come to you, because it was that thing where I was looking at my wardrobe going. And I've had training, so I'm very different, because when you're an actor, you are trained to dress as the part, and you spend hours learning what and observing, really observing, not observing the magazines. In fact, I don't read any glossy magazines at all, primarily because I find them there's no it sounds awful, but I find there's no substance to them. So what we used to do, one of the exercises we had to do, was go out and watch people in the street and see what they're absolutely wearing. So I do this, and it was a really hot summer's day, and I decided to wear a summer dress, and I was traveling. It's a stupid story, but I was traveling, and this bit of the body was being shown, so I had to dive in and get a little vest to put underneath, and there's a slit in the dress, and I was walking, because I observe, and I still observe today, and I was walking, there was somebody not dressed the same way as me, obviously going to the office as well. I had my laptop, but because I was wearing a pretty summer dress, which was covered in flowers with a slit, now I was going to a big meeting, but I was feminine, they absolutely stopped, stared at me, and judged me, just as if I was blonde and silly. And it was like, wow, I'm 52. I think I can hold my own. So you're right about that judgment. I think that's a really important thing to talk about. So thank you for that. We've got some comments. Paula joined us. Yes, Paula Cannon. You two really must meet. She designs workwear for women. She's brilliant. So definitely reach out. And Joanne Barker's joined us, and I would definitely buy the book too.
I better get cracking on writing this book, hadn't I?
Yeah.
What I might do is just rant and then get it like transcribed. Done.
Well, you can do that in Word.
Yeah, I think. Okay, fine. Fine. Everyone, I'll write a book.
Please do. I'll even write the foreword saying yes. Go for it. A comment anyway. Please write a book, because I think it's really important. So we talked about the guy who worked in the archives, who told you all about how incredible it was to be in that position. What I'm really interested about is who else has inspired you?
It sounds really corny. I'm going to say my parents, because we grew up with no money. Like literally, my dad had about 4 jobs, and he also ran his own business, not very well. So I've learned a lot of lessons from him. But there was one time, it was Christmas, and he had to take a job as a milkman because we didn't have any money, and people left tips out. And so he came home with all of these envelopes, and they were full of coins. It was like £1 here, 50p there, 20p there. And me and my sisters opened these envelopes, and I've never felt more rich. We were like, we're rich. And it added up to probably about, I don't know, 30 quid or something. But my parents always told me that I could do anything. And they've got 3 daughters. And my dad was always actually being asked when we were kids, oh, isn't it a shame you don't have a son? And he'd always be like, no, I've got 3 lovely children. But they always told me there was nothing that I couldn't do. And when you come from a background of you live on a council estate, you get judged on it. You're starting not at the same position as everyone else. And he and my mum always took us to places that would show us like there was a good way of life and that kind of stuff. So they've been massively influential. And also my grandparents, the same. Yeah, they've been getting emotional. They've been they've been very helpful, I guess, what I would say. So, and one of my nans. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's just to let you know, because I don't know if you know this about me. I grew up in a council house.
There we go. See, yeah.
So everything you've just said, I totally and utterly. Yeah, my parents are the same. So I just, Yeah, I could hear you were getting emotional, so it was like, no, I've got to jump in there.
I don't cry on Monday morning.
I don't like exposing anybody because I don't think it's fair. This is a moment where we're talking, and it's not about me making you cry or anything like that. So, but yes, I grew up in Tattenham Corner, which I'm really proud of, in a little road called Shorley Crescent, which is now, and I went to Shorley Way first in middle school. And actually, as I'm talking, I'm dropping my accent and going into my Surrey accent because that's actually what I come from. But I had elocution lessons, and I was, my parents supported me to become an actor and told me I could achieve anything. And I'm getting emotional now.
Oh, stop!
I know.
Yeah, one of my nans, actually, she's passed away. She passed away quite a few years ago, but she is a big inspiration to me now because she was very intelligent and also very stylish. But she grew up on the same estate that I did, and she got a place in the grammar school, but she couldn't go because the war broke out. So she then ended up having 7 children from the age she had her first kid at 18, her last kid when she was 40, who was my mum. And she was honestly like the most intelligent, like fabulous person I've ever met. And I just think if she was alive now, what could she have done? And so sometimes I think about that when I'm a bit scared to do this or do that. I think you've got an opportunity that your nan didn't have. So you may as well just take it.
So I love the fact you brought this up because I can remember my mum telling me, and mum's 76 now, and I remember her saying to me, you don't understand the pressure that was on me to be a secretary. And I was like, wow. And she went, I'll never do that to you. And she didn't. She empowered my brother and me and my sister to be whatever we could be. And I do exactly the same thing. And I take the song from Les Miserables, which is not Les Mis, Miss Saigon, and I sing it to my daughter. And I deliberately twist the words because I want it to be powerful for her. But the line is, you can be what you want to be. And it's like, yeah. And I sung it to her since she was really, really tiny, because I think it's so easy for us to get put into a little box. And I want her, I mean, she's got a lot of things that she's got to overcome. So I want her to fly and just be as ballsy as her mother. She's amazing. You'll have to meet her. So we've had Rachel Genoway saying amazing insights. Thank you. And then a LinkedIn user who I don't know the name of because how StreamYard works says, great listen. So that's awesome. So this is the moment where you've been in the hot seat. We've had a brilliant, I have loved this conversation. I'm so pleased you said yes. You get to ask me anything.
Hey, let's go. I'm going to ask you a question that I ask a lot of my clients. And actually, it's a good question for people who are listening as well, because they can think about this. What would you wear if you wanted to feel your absolute most fabulous self?
So something bright pink, which is funny enough what this is, although it looks red. So something bright pink. I have worn bright pink since I was 15. That's fuchsia pink. When I was about 40, it's a memory. It's linked to a real treat. I think it was my 15th or 16th birthday, and my mum took me shopping, and it is fast fashion. It was Topshop at the time. We didn't have any money. You know, you've got to you understand it. So to go up to London to go shopping in Topshop, and I was lucky. I got a grant. So my secondary school, I actually went to private school because I got a grant so that I could study performance. So I went to Arts Ed. But I was the grant kid. And so I trained with people who could wear all the fashion brands. And I remember desperately wanting Levi 501s, but we couldn't afford them. So I think it was some other brand, which I can't even remember, Wrangler or something. And they were just not right, but it was the best my mum could do. And so to go up shopping in London to get this outfit was massive. And I was in Topshop, and I got a matching, this is so 80s, I got a matching sweatshirt, top, and long skirt with a split up the back in fuchsia pink, with fuchsia pink massive high heels, fuchsia pink earrings. And I wore it to my party, and I wore it absolutely everywhere. And I wore it to death. And so fuchsia pink to me is the memory that I always wear when I want to feel absolutely fabulous.
That is the most wonderful story. Oh,
and not something I ever thought I would share on here. So thank you, because it's not something that I'd ever actually made that connection of why I wear fuchsia pink, but it is really that whole memory, that whole day in London, that mummy time of just so magical.
Oh,
so Mom, if you're listening, which I know you never do, but if you're listening, so thank you so much for joining us. Well, joining me. I have loved this conversation. Please get that book written. Oh, I'll tell you what we haven't done is you have got an amazing thing coming up. So I'm going to flick the ticker on and you get to tell everybody all about this.
Yes, I have a masterclass coming up on September 21st. It's called Magnetic Style, and it's going to essentially does what it says on the tin, show you how to be magnetic so you can align what you're wearing with what you want. And I've seen this process work with my clients. You know, they're going out there, getting visible, getting their own clients, making more money, feeling really good. And I would love to share that with as many people as possible, because it's September. A lot of people are thinking that it's the end of the year. You know, no, we can still make this the best season of the year. And also I'm big on autumn. I love it. Season of magic. Not right now, obviously it's a season of sweat, but it's going to be,
it is 30 degrees out there.
Yeah, it's just going to be a magical energy. So I'd love people to join.
Absolutely brilliant. Anybody who is looking at their wardrobe right now thinking, I've got nothing to wear, you can and you will if you get in touch with Samantha, because she is totally awesome.
Thank you.